How's it going, everybody? It's Matt again. We're going to look at another third-party transformer. It's going to be GCREATION's GDW-01A Ultra Maximus. This is their fancy, super painted-up version. This was previously released before, and it had apparently a whole bunch of QC issues. May or may not have been fixed in this one. You'll see later on in the video. I'll talk more about it. But it is their IDW-inspired Optimus Prime. A lot of people seem to think that this is based off of kind of like design-wise, I can see how it's kind of based off of the Flame Toys type of model kit, but I don't think it's a straight modification of it. I think that it might just be inspired by it. I don't know. I don't actually have the Flame Toys, so I can't compare the two, but it seems to be its own thing. But obviously, take a look at the front of the box. This is masterpiece size, so it is quite large. It's a pretty big piece. But take a look at the front. Got a whole bunch of nice kind of chrome type of lettering on the front, which is nice. Interesting, it says produced by XZHS Studio, which I don't know. It was advertised to me on Show Z as GCREATION, so that's who I'm attributing it to. There's the side. Here's the back, showing that it's actually compatible with MP Prime's trailer, which is kind of nice. I don't have that, so I can't show that. But there it is from the top and all that. And I'm not going to open this up, but I will say the inside is kind of like that nice foam fit, kind of like how Zeta's like little mini Superion and all that stuff. Like it's a very nice protected inside here. It's a really nice opening unboxing. So. But pretty big box. I'll set that aside because we're not really here for the box. But it's going to come with some instructions, a whole bunch of pages and whatnot, because if you've seen anything about this guy before, you already know he is an absolute freaking nightmare to transform. I'll talk more about that a little bit later and probably show, but instructions are okay. He's going to come with a bunch of accessories. First off, he's going to come with these. There are little blue filler pieces for his hands. There's little mushroom pegs that where his hands plug into. They are just fillers for that. He's going to come with this piece, which is meant to go on the inside of Masterpiece, official Masterpiece trailer, so that you can put his guns and weapons and stuff, attach them onto that, so you can store those. He's going to come with a battle axe, which is really nicely detailed. Got some clear plastic up here, and then the base is just all gray plastic. He's going to come with this huge sword, which of course has it's all like that orange clear plastic, but then the silver is painted onto it. The gray is a separate piece, but it looks pretty darn good. And he's going to come with not one, but two of these guns. Not really iconic Optimus guns, but they're all right. They got like little Gatling guns or something on the bottom here, but there are two of them. Oops, and they have really tiny little handles. You can actually take these and you can plug them into this thing, which is, of course, what goes in the trailer, but they just slide into these little slots here, and then you can store those on the inside of that trailer, but I don't have it, so I can't show you that, but I want to show that they can do that. But here he is. So he comes packaged in robot mode, right? And I always like to start off in vehicle mode, and I will say, I mean, he looks absolutely incredible. He looks freaking amazing. Really, really nicely done. But getting him to this took me over an hour and a half. It's the transformation on this thing is that bad. Probably the worst transformation I've ever seen. And you'll see, because I'll transform him back into bot mode in video, because it's not as bad getting him back into bot as it is getting him into vehicle mode. But getting him into this mode and getting all of these panels fit together is a horrible experience. It's not fun. All of these panels interlock into each other, and he's essentially a shell former where he just kind of collapses all up in here, and then all of these panels just interlock together into like a puzzle to make him look like this. But I will say it looks really, really good. If you can get everything cleaned up a little bit better than I can, because you can see there's gaps just all over the place, he looks really good. Even with my attempt, I think that he looks really good. But there he is from the side. These are, I think, yeah, they are rubber wheels. They're very hard rubber, but obviously there's, you know, 4 on each side here, 4 on the side there, you know, front wheels here. But they look really good. There he is from the underside. You can kind of see the nightmare jumbled up in there that I'm talking about. From the side, he does have another thing that I'm not too much of a fan of. I don't really like it when third-party companies do this kind of Gundam-y type of thing where they put caution labels all over the place. I mean, he's a semi-truck. I don't think he should have all of these like aircraft warnings all over him. I don't personally care for that. It depends on if you like it or not. I don't know, because I know that they, Kang Toys did that with their Predacons. What was the other company that I'm thinking of? The one that did this, that did the Superions doing the Constructicons now. They did it too with all of these crazy warning labels that just don't make any sense. I'm not really a fan of that, but they are all over him, and they are nice though. They are very nice pad printed decals. I really do like the kind of color breakup here with the white. I think it does look really nice. Here on the front, looks pretty darn good. I love how you can see into the windshield. You can actually see the matrix behind there. His windshield wipers are painted. There's the top with the little lights and his little spoiler that's unique to his IDW version. But yeah, back looks like it cleans up pretty darn good. This section here, this part here, this is kind of it's a separate piece. You can pull it off. This is kind of like just an accessory piece that you have so that you can attach them to the MP Prime's trailer. But I have it on here because it helps hold him together a little bit better, because the legs kind of get, you know, misaligned if there's nothing holding them together, because they don't really peg together. They just kind of sit there. And see, I just undid like half of the transformation up here. Just from that little movement, I just undid a bunch of stuff. Probably take me 20 minutes to fix that. But, I mean, he does, I'll pan it down here. He does roll pretty well. You know, he's a truck, he's a vehicle, he's supposed to. So, pretty good. Not too bad. When you get him into the mode, he looks great. But if you if you want to play with this guy, you're going to be disappointed, because this is definitely not a figure that you can mess around with. But I guess let's transform him. Alright, so let's get him transformed. Expect frequent cuts and a lot of tool usage, because this thing is a whole thing. Alright, so what we're going to do first is these panels here. They rotate on this hinge, and they need to unpeg from this panel back here. You can really only get it undone with the tool, like so. It pegs with that panel into there. So you're going to undo that and just kind of rotate this back like so. We're going to do that on both sides. Get that out of the way. The little spoiler section here, it's going to come undone on a whole bunch of different joints. We're going to rotate it back and out of the way. These two sections here, you're going to want to compress them in on this slider. And then we're just going to kind of start unfolding everything. So these panels here with the blue outline section, these gray sections, they need to untab from here and here, 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 and here. So kind of pull them off of all of these panels, kind of unpeg all of this. There we go. Go ahead and pull that down, get those pegs where they need to be. And I already kind of undid everything just by moving him, but you're going to want to pull off of these tabs here, all of that. There's tabs here, 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 I think up here. You need to undo all of this. This whole door panel you want to bring down on this double hinge here, like that. Do that on the other side if I can. So bring these down like so. These panels are going to undo from the bumper and from the headlights, like this, and just kind of get them out of the way a little bit, just kind of like that. And then down here at these wheels, you're going to unpeg them from here on either side, and then now these leg sections can rotate down on this ratchet, like so. But lift them up on this double hinge and press them up against, like so. We're going to just kind of spread the legs a little bit just to make room. I suppose we'll do the legs first. Just kind of get everything up and out of the way for the legs. These, we'll start here at the feet. At the feet, these little heel sections here are going to come down, and then this foot section here is going to lift up like so, and then this little panel is going to press down onto the top of the foot. Same thing here. Bring the heel down, bring this top section of the foot up, bring that panel down. Now the little foot flap here is going to flip up out of the way. These panels here, that little peg there is going to come undone from here, and then you're going to unpeg it from here, rotate this panel around like so. So there we go, lift that up. Rotate that panel around. This whole section here, it's this whole armature here. Let me kind of move this out of the way. Right here at this little swivel joint, you want to make sure this little knee pad is kind of up like this. That's going to come up like this, so then this whole armature can rotate like so. And then the the lower leg portion here with the wheels, you're going to push in on that slider. This side panel here is just going to kind of come down. You want to make sure that this knee part is up out of the way so you have clearance. It's going to peg into there, right like that. And this is all just going to kind of rest up against there for now. This wheel section, or rather this panel section, that little peg is going to go in right here, like so. And then this bottom panel here is going to come down, and that little peg is going to peg in right here, kind of. And then this section is just going to come down like so. And then that is just going to kind of wrap around right like that. And then there is a leg. So here, get that little knee section down, pull down on this, rotate that whole section around, and then pull the foot or the lower leg into place. This lower section will peg into there. And then this will rotate around and peg in there. And this part will angle down like that. And then this part will come down like that. And there are his legs. All right, so up here at the top, I guess we'll start here at the spoiler part. So you're going to split that. And then they're going to rotate around this double joint here. So on that little swivel, and then on the ball joint, you're going to flip back. So now it's like this. Like that. And then this is just going to kind of sit out of the way. You want to undo this front section, which is the nightmare part, getting this together. You're going to kind of lift off of these two little notches here, and then undo these, and they kind of just friction fit together. So just pull this whole panel off, and then we're just going to kind of lift this, and this entire big nightmare armature is just going to come down like that. And then here at the front, these little arm sections here, this is just going to rotate out on either side of this part, like so. And then his head is back here on this armature. Just going to kind of lift this up out of the way for now. These two sections here on this joint, you're going to want to kind of move these in onto this just kind of move them in like that. These two arm parts, or rather this was like this, you want it to flip around. These two little arm parts need to kind of come up like this a little bit and then rotate these around like that. And then we're going to take this and just kind of compress it a little bit like so, just to kind of get it out of the way for now. And then up here at the front, these little panels, which are on the insides of the windshield, you want to flip those in like this and then peg them in like so. And then the little mirrors, you're going to flip around to the inside, but not all the way. You only want it like that. Same thing on the other side. Rotate this in, peg that in, and then bring that part down. Oops, I almost freaking dropped him. And now basically just these two panels, you're just going to bring in on this slider, and they should just kind of click in place. Kind of. The arm parts here are going to slide up on these little sliders on either side. And then we're going to start just undoing everything here on the arms. So this panel here that's already kind of come undone, you want to lift that up out of the way. And then this panel you want to lift off of this. And then this panel is going to swing around on this big armature here. This panel here will flip up and peg into that section. And then this whole section here will rotate independently up like so, and then tab into this part. And I know that my camera wasn't in focus that entire time. So we're going to kind of bring this down and rotate the bicep around, bring this down. So you're going to rotate this around like this, and then pull the panel down like that. And then this entire forearm assembly is going to flip around like this, and it's kind of popped off that pin. There you go. It's going to kind of flip around like this, and then it's going to fit into this little groove up here. So it should collapse onto the back of the forearm. This shoulder section here, oh, I think it just, yeah, you just turn it around like this, and then this panel pegs into the back of here. For some reason, I thought I had to go underneath. And then this panel here will just kind of angle down against the top of the arm. And then these panels will just kind of angle like so to make one of the arms. All right, this panel, lift that up off of there. Lift this panel down off of here. This whole assembly will come down. This panel will go up. This panel will flip in. Eventually doing what I want it to. There you go. This will come down, rotate. This panel will rotate like so. Flip in. And then the hand will just rotate out. Collapse everything up into there. And then this panel will rotate all the way back around. That will peg in here. That'll come down like that. And then there are his arms. These panels here need to rotate up like this on either side. And then, I'm going to get these out of the way. This double joint section here needs to lift up like this. Like that. Bringing them a little bit higher on either side. Like so. So it should look like this. These little panels here are going to fold in like this. And then now that they're up in this orientation, these two little fender pieces will fold in like that. Kind of get it out of the way like this. And now we're going to flip them around, and we're going to undo this grill section here. So you're going to unpeg from these two little posts and get this bumper out of the way. And these sections here are going to come down, recessed in here. You're going to bring them down on this double joint here and just kind of bring them in, if I can. Or here, I think maybe it was like this. I think you bring them down like this, kind of on this double hinge, and it should look like this. And then this grill section here is going to, like that, there you go. So it comes undone from here, and these two sections are going to separate from there. And then this grill is going to push in like this, and then this whole abdomen section is going to lift up in place like that. And now these two panels are just going to twist around to the sides and kind of flatten up against here. This side is going to kind of tuck behind that, and they're just going to kind of come back like this for now. Back up here to the bumper. These parts are just going to kind of flip in on the part of the bumper that we split. So this is going to push in like so, and that'll kind of pull everything together like that. I'm trying to remember how these parts go together. I think it might have been like this, actually. Yeah, so they flip around like that, and that is essentially what that should look like. And then basically all that we're going to do now is just kind of press that panel in. It compresses into the waist section here, and then these parts are just going to kind of lift up, and we're going to rotate the waist all the way around. And I did actually fail to do this. I meant to do this ahead of time. There's just so many things that need to move that it's not any surprise that I missed a step. But we want these panels back out here. We'll do that on either side, because we need to get these wheels inside the body. So the wheels are on this middle track. You want them to push to the outer track here, and then they're going to come up inside here and then kind of sit up in this section, and then just compress them in, and then reach your fingers in here and push. Actually, no, I was wrong. You want them all the way out on the other side like this. I don't know why there is a third setting. So push them out all the way, lift them up like so, and just kind of compress them into everything, and then just push in on it. And now this panel will come in like this, and just kind of fit all of that in like so. So here, this part needs to come down like so. This is going to kind of come up like this, and it's going to collapse up like that, and that'll peg together like so. These panels you kind of want spread apart, and then these we just kind of want to prep and have them down like this, because all of this needs to essentially come underneath the head but over all of this. So it needs to come up like this. And this is where it kind of gets kind of funky, because this red panel has to fit below this clear piece, because these little notches plug into there. So it can be a little weird, and I might have to do it off camera, because it can be a whole thing. Okay, so after fiddling with this thing for like 15 minutes, so there's this panel. This little red piece needs to plug into this gray section here, but while you're doing that, you have to wedge these clear panels underneath this and compress everything together. And then these panels will just kind of come in here, and you heard it kind of pop into place there. There you go, because they peg into either side of these wheels. Now everything is pretty solid together. So these little red panels will now come down and peg into this section here on either side, like that. And then this red panel here, well, let me make sure I'm doing all this right. So this will flip up on that armature, up like so. And then this panel, the windshield, will all just kind of come down like this, and this gray panel will come up and kind of lock that into place. And then you're free to move these panels however you want to, position them however you want onto his back. I like to kind of do it like that. And we'll kind of move his arms back into place. Move these down, and then the head will just come down on this armature and plug in, right like that. And then bring his ears up. And then, holy moly, there he is. Absolute nightmare transformation. It's not as bad getting him back, but it is extremely frustrating getting him to the truck. So this is 100% how he will be staying. I'm never transforming this thing again. So these little blue pieces, they actually fit right into the sides of the hands like I was talking about. I already had one installed. They are a bit loose. This one had already fallen out, so I'll try to put it back in there. They'll probably need to be glued, but that is where those go. But yeah, I mean, bring them, everything kind of lined up. But I will say, look at him. He is a handsome boy, though. I think that it's actually really well done, like as far as the looks of it. The transformation being an absolute nightmare, he does look really good, though. Of course, I don't have him very cleaned up, but he does look the part. But to get a better look at the head, I do think that the ears, the little antennas, they're a little long in my opinion. They should probably be like a little bit shorter. Even though IDW Prime did have the long antennas, I think that's a little too much. And I don't know why these are not. There we go. But I mean, it looks really good. I will say the whole thing is painted. Like all of the red is painted. I think all of the white is painted. The only thing that isn't painted is maybe some of the gray plastic. I didn't really talk about it in vehicle mode, but the feel of him, he does feel a little cheapo, plasticky. Like it's not very good plastic, I will say that. It's very bendy and flexy, and that might just be because it doesn't really lock together all that well. I think the only thing that really locks together well is the torso, the nightmare that it is, but it does hold itself together pretty good. But all of the paint and everything does show through really nice here in bot mode. You can, of course, open his matrix chamber if you just lift these up and then slide them out on these sliders. Lift them up. This little section will come down, and there is his matrix, which is a separate part, so you can pull it out and take a look at that. Pretty nicely sculpted. Put that back together. As far as his accessories go, let's see. So he has his 3 handheld items. You can, of course, hold them into his hands. They all have this kind of weird thin track here on the handles, so be really careful when you put them into his hands. I would be worried about them breaking, because I don't know if you can see that, but it's just this teeny tiny little plastic piece in the outside of this track that holds it together. But he does hold them really securely, which is good. So there's the axe, and then of course you can put his guns in his hands. Holds those just fine. Here's his giant sword, which of course he can hold just fine. I'd just be careful with that little plastic piece because I would be worried about it snapping. But let's look about maybe the articulation. So there is a ball joint, or actually it's not a ball joint, it's a little hinge here in the head. So the head can look down that far, look up that far, no side to side at all. It can rotate on this base here. You can rotate that all the way around. His shoulders they don't actually have that little joint. There's a little kind of like a butterfly joint here in the actual kind of like collarbone part of the torso, so you can rotate them in pretty far, which looks really good. Not really anything out. You can lift them up on there's 2 different joints here. There's one up here in the shoulder, which allows you to get up there. They can rotate down here, right below the shoulder at the bicep. Very squeaky joint. You can rotate all the way around. There's a double jointed elbow, so you can go about that far there, and not quite 180 degrees, but it's decent. The hand is on just kind of a little mushroom peg here, so you can rotate all the way around. There is a pin here for all the fingers, so the bottom 3 fingers, come on camera, bottom 3 fingers can rotate, and then the trigger finger can rotate, but it is kind of hard to manipulate. So you can do all of that. There isn't any ab crunch, but you can rotate the waist all the way around at risk of undoing everything, and of course having pieces fall off like this. The legs are a bit limited, unfortunately. The front panels here, because of them, you can't really rotate forwards at all. You have to actually bring this whole panel down in order to rotate them up, but you're only going to get about that far. It doesn't look that bad, but it is kind of weird how that was implemented. Because of all this bullshit back here, you can only take the leg about that far back. It's just kind of a bummer. The legs can go out only about that far, so very limited hips. You can rotate there at the thigh, so you can rotate that all the way around. And then he does have double jointed knees. First joint gets you about that much. Second joint is, gets you about that far. I mean, it's definitely nothing crazy. Very weird ratchets too. Very strange. The knee can also kind of move around and get out of the way for whatever you need it to. The legs, they just disassemble themselves anytime you try to do anything with the ankles, so I recommend holding on to them. But you can take the foot down about that far. Can't really go up any farther because of the foot armor. Foot armor does move, by the way. The foot can go down, and it can go up, and you do have an ankle tilt. It works well enough. So there's articulation. Obviously, I mean, if you mess around with him a lot, you're going to kind of undo all the hard work that you did. He's not the most playable thing in the world, but you do have enough posability to make him do some stuff that you want him to. This guy's definitely something that is more of a display piece, I would say. He's not a very good figure to mess with. But let me clean him up a little bit, and we'll close out with some size comparisons. Alright, so size comparisons. So I don't really have all that much that makes sense to show him with. I don't really have any MMC stuff, which I feel would look really good next to him. Some like MMC IDW stuff. But I do have some regular Masterpiece stuff. So here he is next to a Takara MP Carbot. There's Blue Streak. And then how about Magic Square's Brawl. So you can see with one of the Gestalt members. And then how about some more third-party Masterpiece? Here is Fans Toys Galvatron. And then how about Magic Square's MP Optimus? So he's a little bit taller than your standard MP leaders. Alright, so that's going to do it for GCREATION GDW-01A. Their Ultra Maximus IDW Optimus Prime. So what do I think of this guy? Well, I think a lot. I think that he is a really, really nice, beautiful piece to set on a shelf. And as a model builder myself, and someone that paints model kits and stuff, I like that kind of stuff. I like that he looks good. However, this thing is probably the worst Transformer I've ever handled. Its materials do not feel good. Its transformation is absolutely horrific. Very, very not fun. It is definitely like something that I had to psych myself up to do when I got this guy, and it is something I had to psych myself up to do because I knew I had to record this video. So, if you want to get this guy to display him as a nice, large, fairly cheap Optimus, this is your guy. He looks really good. If you want to transform him into truck and treat him like a figure, you're gonna hate him. That being said, he didn't break. I'm blown away that he actually didn't break. So that's really surprising to me. Because very flexy plastic, not very nice to handle. But like I said, he looks good. This guy was previously, I think the original release was retailing for like $170. I would never recommend him at that price. I ended up getting this guy on Shozi for I think like $70, and even that, I don't know, but I think he looks decent. He performs okay as a figure. So I'm kind of on the fence about him. Can I recommend him? If you're, it depends what you're doing with your collection. If you want to display him, sure. If you want to mess with him, absolutely do not. Absolutely do not. Cannot recommend him. But for my purposes, I think he looks great. I'm gonna just kind of pose him and sit him on my shelf, and he's never gonna be touched again. So do with that information what you will. But I think that's about it. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for enduring the frustration of transforming this guy. I probably made a ton of cuts in this video because it probably took me about 40 minutes to transform him. But I mean, we got there. I just wish that he was a little bit more enjoyable to mess with. But thank you so much for watching. If you want to support me on Patreon, I have the link to that in the description. Of course, please like, comment on the video, subscribe to the channel, check out some of my other reviews if you like my content. There's a playlist there that you can find everything. But thank you for watching, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye.